Hello, I'm Michael Fromm, Chair of the Jewish Council for Public Affairs. I want to welcome everyone to this very special and poignant memorial service for Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. There are a few times in our lives when we remember where we were and what we were doing when we heard breaking news stories. When I read of Justice Ginsburg's death last Friday night, Erev Rosh Hashanah, I, like many of you, I'm sure, literally stopped in my tracks. Ruth Bader Ginsburg will be remembered as a towering figure in America's justice system, a tireless activist for women's and human rights, and to us, a brilliant, proud, and passionate Jew who embodied the highest ideals of our tradition. Justice Ginsburg is who we wanted our daughters and our sons to emulate. Simply put, she was an embodiment of all that we hold dear. May her memory be a blessing, and may her legacy be an inspiration in times when we so badly need to be inspired. JCPA is honored to hold this memorial service with our partners at the Jewish Federations of North America, Hadassah, National Council of Jewish Women International, and the Women's League for Conservative Judaism. You will hear today from leaders of these organizations and from Nadine Epstein, editor of Moment magazine, who was a close personal friend of Justice Ginsburg and who was co-authoring a book with her at the time of her death. I'd like to now ask Rabbi Ellen Wolintz-Fields, Executive Director of the Women's League for Conservative Judaism, to lead us in prayer. She will be followed by Rabbi Menachem Creditor from UJA Federation of New York.
Thank you. Ribono Shel Olam, our God in heaven, we thank you for the wonders of technology to bring us together, b'yachad, today, to pay tribute to the Honorable Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Many of us gathered here today personally knew Justice Ginsburg, and many of us never had the privilege of meeting the iconic RBG, but mourn her loss as if one of our family died. And we too want to tear our clothes in mourning, and after she is buried, recite Mourner's Kaddish as well. Oh God, how was it that almost a week ago, we prayed for a new year which would bring greater health, happiness, and joy. And yet, as we began 5781, we heard the tragic news that one of the greatest leaders of our times had died. And so our new year has begun with mournful sorrow. This first Shabbat of 5781, we read the Torah reading of Parashat Ha'azinu, the final speech in poetic form of Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses our teacher, to the children of Israel delivered before his death. Of Moses we say, Lo kam b'Yisrael kamo she'od. Never in Israel has there arisen another like Moses. Moses led the children of Israel through the desert, but Moses was not able to conclude the dream of entering the promised land. God, can we dare say, Lo kama b'Yisrael ba'olam kirut od? Never in Israel, perhaps in the world, has there arisen another like Ruth. Justice Ginsburg was a trailblazer, paving the road for many of us, leading our world towards progress, greater equality for men and women of all colors and shades. But we are not yet in the promised land of true equity for all. The children of Israel did not end their journey with the death of Moses. They continued the dream of entering the promised land. So too, we do not end the journey that Justice Ginsburg has charted for us. As we are taught in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of Our Ancestors, Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, v'lo ata ven chorin lihivatel mimeno. We are not obliged to finish the task, neither are we free to neglect it. Justice Ginsburg performed the sacred work of fighting for justice for all, and it is our job to continue for our generation and all future generations. That is why Justice Ginsburg is loved, admired, and revered by all of us across generations, and as much a role model for a toddler as she is for women in their prime. May God give us the strength and courage to live Justice Ginsburg's legacy, and may her memory inspire us all to demonstrate and live a life like Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a life inspired by Jewish Torah values of tzedek, tzedek tirdof, justice, justice we shall pursue. In fact, she had 3 different versions of this biblical verse from different Judaica artists hanging in her office. May we truly love our neighbors as ourselves, as the Torah teaches us, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, so that we can build a world of loving kindness. Olam chesed yibaneh. It is now my honor and privilege to introduce my dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Menachem Creditor of UJA Federation of New York, with his rendition of the verse from Psalms, Olam chesed yibaneh.
Olam chesed yibaneh, Olam chesed Olam chesed Olam chesed I will build this world from love. And you must build this world from love. And if we build this world from love, then God will build this world from love.
I am a judge, born, raised, and proud of being a Jew. The demand for justice, for peace, for enlightenment runs through the entirety of Jewish history and Jewish tradition. I hope in all the years I have the good fortune to continue serving on the bench of the Supreme Court of the United States, I will have the strength and courage to remain steadfast in service of that demand.
Recent years, this brilliant woman, small in stature, even a bit shy, became more than a role model to feminists and people fighting for justice. She became a role model to our nation at a time when we desperately needed positive role models The more tumultuous the time, the more we needed her steady presence. She was a role model to the Jewish nation, to the American nation, and to our world, to older people, to middle-aged people, to young people. Her amazing work redressing the inequalities deeply embedded in American law is only one reason why she became our national role model. I've been thinking a lot over the last week about what it was about her that made her so inspirational. I found myself thinking of her the same way I think about Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King Jr., two prophets of our nation who developed visions for a better America and led struggles for justice. From what I've read about them, they, like Justice Ginsburg, had something special about them. They were catalysts who created change, and they made the rest of us better people. They helped crystallize, and without anger, how we think and how we feel. Justice Ginsburg did this for millions, and she did it for me. I was strengthened by her gentle steeliness and by her endless, and I mean endless, devotion to making a just place for women in the world and to shaping justice for our time. Ruth Bader Ginsburg never stopped. I was strengthened by the way she didn't let the gender discrimination she faced throughout her life, both conscious and unconscious, get in her way. I was strengthened by the way she learned not to give up when men ignored her or belittled her words. She once told me that in law school, she felt afraid to speak in class, but she studied harder and she pushed herself to be assertive. I was strengthened by her firm belief that the world needed women as judges and leaders in politics and all professions, and not just 50%. It would be fine, she told me, to have 9 female Supreme Court justices, because after all, she told me, we've had 9 men for centuries, and no one seemed perturbed about that. I was strengthened by her knowledge and experience that a woman's voice and a woman's experience can change work environments and outcomes for the better. As women achieve power, the barriers will fall, she wrote late last month in an essay for the current issue of Moment. As society sees what women can do, as women see what women can do, there'll be more women out there doing things, and we will all be better off for it. I was strengthened by her love of her work. She worked hard and always did her homework. I know she was looking forward to the new term. I was strengthened by her love of learning. She never stopped reading. This summer, she was working her way through a biography of Hadassah founder Henrietta Szold. I was strengthened by how she lived her life. She had a great marriage and partnership with her late husband. She was a caring mother, grandmother, aunt, and friend. I admired her absolute pleasure in music, particularly opera, which brought her so much joy. I enjoyed how she loved art. A visit to her chambers was like visiting a museum of art and history with a Supreme Court justice as curator and guide. I admired how she always took the time to write a warm, personal thank you note on stationery, and to so many people. I was strengthened by the way she refused to let illness stop her. A few weeks before her death, she was writing an essay for Moment and sending me ideas for our book. She was simply who she was, a feminist who loved collecting lacy collars and had a great fashion sense, and who spoke softly, a person who had a power about her. As a young girl, she searched for women, Jewish women, all kinds of role models, and found them hard to find, she told me. The Bible was filled largely with stories of men. Even Miriam wasn't in the Haggadah that she read along with her parents and grandparents at family seders. She eventually found a few women to inspire her, including the brave and brilliant Henrietta Szold, Deborah the Judge, and poet Emma Lazarus. Because our book is about role models, she and I talked and corresponded about role models quite a bit over the last year. She knew how important role models were, especially for children and young adults. As she said just a few weeks ago, While I am mindful of current realities, the opening of doors long closed makes me optimistic about a future in which daughters and sons alike will be free from artificial barriers, free to aspire and to achieve in full accord with their God-given talents and their willingness to do the hard work needed to make dreams come true. Justice Ginsburg, our RBG is gone, but her words and her acts will stay with us. It's now up to all of us to ensure that her work continues. That's what she wanted. Thank you.
Person who positively impacted so many of our lives. We will now hear short remembrances from our co-sponsors. Speakers include Sheila Katz from National Council of Jewish Women, Janice Weinman from Hadassah, Meredith Jacobs from Jewish Women International, Yolanda Savage-Narva from Operation Understanding DC, and JCPA board member David Luchins.
Hi, I'm Sheila Katz, CEO of the National Council of Jewish Women. First, let me start by acknowledging Breonna Taylor. May her memory be for a blessing. Almost as soon as I heard about Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, I felt drawn to head down to the Supreme Court to gather with other mourners. Almost moments after arriving, someone blew the shofar on the steps of the court. The shofar is blown on Rosh Hashanah as a literal wake-up call to the Jewish people. It is a signal that we need to act, to work toward bettering ourselves and healing the world around us. Nothing could have been more fitting to remind us of the work we have ahead to live our lives with the values of Justice Ginsburg. We mourn with the family of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and we mourn with America. Few people have altered the lives of so many. Ideas that once seemed so radical today are common sense because of her efforts. Chief among them, equal protection of the law and what that means for the most vulnerable among us, including women, children, and families. Justice Ginsburg was a true trailblazer who inspired countless people to fight sexism and discrimination to make America a better place to work, to live, and to love. As a Jewish woman, Justice Ginsburg was driven by the ideal of tzedek tzedek tirdof, or justice, justice you shall pursue. These words from the Torah were so central to her life and work that she had them up in her office. Indeed, these words, tzedek tzedek tirdof, are situated in Deuteronomy in the context of a series of verses commanding us to appoint judges and officials who do not judge unfairly and who show no partiality. Justice Ginsburg was a fair, independent, and qualified judge. The way she went about her work, inspired by these Jewish values, is the standard we must now expect of others. Justice Ginsburg has done so much for each of us. This is a shocking and painful loss for our country, but we cannot simply mourn. We must also take action. It is now on all of us to pursue justice in her stead. This is our sacred mandate, our holy task. It is how we can hold and honor Justice Ginsburg's life and legacy. Justice Ginsburg always chose her words carefully, from her early years as a lawyer arguing landmark cases to her powerful dissenting opinions from the bench of the U.S. Supreme Court, and finally with her dying wish to her granddaughter. If the law and majority opinion of the court failed to reflect her values, Justice Ginsburg was not afraid to use her platform to give Congress direction. And in fact, her powerful dissenting opinion in Ledbetter v. Goodyear gave Congress a roadmap to pass the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, moving the needle on gender pay equity that we benefit from today. Her powerful words over the years, perhaps especially in those moments when she spoke so eloquently in dissent, have helped push our laws and our nation toward equality, freedom, and opportunity. And so, NCJW is continuing our decades-long fight to ensure a fair, independent, and qualified judiciary, and to continue fighting for all people to be equal under the law through our new campaign, Ruth's Revolution. Throughout the Supreme Court nominations process, NCJW will track and vet nominees and give people ways to take action. I invite all of you to join us. Together, we will make Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's memory a revolution.
Good afternoon. Hadassah thanks for the opportunity to be part of this very meaningful occasion. We join with others in mourning the death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. A life member of Hadassah, She spent a lifetime breaking boundaries and championing women's rights, equality, and justice. Quote, women's rights are an equal part of the overall human rights agenda, trained on the equal dignity and ability to live in the freedom all people should enjoy. Close quote, she said. One of my favorite parshat in the Torah is the story of the 5 daughters of Zelophehad, who stood before Moses and Eleazar, the high priest, and before the princes of the court to fight for their right to inherit their father's estate, to which only men were entitled. How did they summon the courage and determination to go where no woman has ever gone before, to the place where only the high-ranking congregate, to the place where the tablets from Sinai rest in the ark, to a place of holiness and authority? This week, I heard an interview with Justice Ginsburg's close friend, who recounted that no qualities were more overriding than the tenacity of Justice Ginsburg's belief, the strength of her convictions, the commitment of equal rights for all. Quote, the demand for justice runs through the entirety of Jewish history and Jewish tradition, close quote, she once said. A trailblazer with one of our nation's sharpest minds and warmest hearts, a powerhouse with a sense of humor, a judicial icon, she often credited Hadassah's founder Henrietta Zold, as Nadine already mentioned, as being one, quote, of the 3 Jewish women whose humanity and bravery inspired me, close quote. Ginsburg left us on Rosh Hashanah. How fitting it is that among what she considered to be, in her own words, among her, quote, biggest achievements, close quote, was getting the court not to sit on the first day of Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur. During this traditional period of prayer, reflection, and atonement, many may find her words during the 10 days of awe a reminder that, quote, we are taught to do right, to love mercy, do justice, not because there's going to be a reward in heaven or punishment in hell. We live righteously because that's how people should live, close quote. It is no wonder that she is the first Jew to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol. Hadassah joins with others in ensuring that we implement those tenets of justice that we all share in our communities, with our members, and all throughout the world. Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova.
My mother told me to be a lady, and for her, that meant be your own person, be independent. Women will only have true equality when men share with them the responsibility of bringing up the next generation. Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. Real change, enduring change, happens one step at a time. Women belong in all the places where decisions are being made. I ask no favor for my sex. All I ask of our brethren is that they take their feet off of our necks. Her words changed our lives. Her wisdom changed our nation. Ruth Bader Ginsburg lived fully, with grace and intelligence, humor and compassion. On behalf of Jewish Women International, I pray, like Ruth, may we walk through life with partners who love us completely. Like Ruth, may we voice our opinions with strength and dissent with courage. Like Ruth, may we fight for equality and justice. May her memory power our work, and may her voice echo in the dreams of our daughters.
The other speakers have spoken beautifully in macro and global terms. I want to tell a little story of I stumbled into that lunch with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It was the morning after President Clinton announced her nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, for whom I worked for 20 years, had played a major role in advocating her nomination, and as her sponsoring senator, he had the privilege of introducing her that day to the members of the Judiciary Committee and other senators. I came down for a meeting, unrelated, of course. And it was lunchtime, around 12 o'clock, and I took my little brown paper bag, and I headed to the little room in our Senate office. It was usually a very crowded lunchroom with staff at this time. I walked in, there was no one there. And I saw why. Judge Ginsburg was having lunch by herself. I apologized profusely, headed to the door, and she said, "No, you can stay. Please have lunch with me. I'm having a kosher tuna fish sandwich. We can eat together." I sat down, had a little small talk, and she said, "I need to ask you something important." And I said, "What?" She said, "The president interviewed me for this position 3 days ago. The main case he wanted to discuss was my dissent in the Goldman case. That was a story of a gentleman in the Air Force who wanted the right to wear his kippah, his skull cap, in the Air Force. And the Air Force was against Air Force regulations. The famous attorney Nathan Lewin took the case all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. But first in the appellate court, the court ruled against the plaintiff. And Justice Ginsburg wrote a very powerful dissent. And the president was troubled by it. He said, I know a lot there. Maybe when they eat, they don't wear them all the time. Why are you defending this man's right to do something that most Orthodox Jews don't do? And so she said, what should I have told him? So we got into discussion about halacha, about minhag, religious freedom. It really got interesting when there was a knock on the door and she had to take him to meet the next senator, Senator Dianne Feinstein, was waiting for her. And she left. I washed my hands, made a motzi, and had my peanut butter sandwich in splendid solitude.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my thoughts about Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a phenomenal woman who stood for fairness and justice for all people. Before I begin, I would like to honor the indigenous land that we inhabit and make sure that we remember the ancestors who were here before us. So today I have chosen to honor Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg with a series of quotes that I feel reflect who she was in life, as well as the legacy she will leave after her death. Oprah Winfrey said, "I've come to believe that each of us has a personal calling that's as unique as a fingerprint, and that the best way to succeed is to discover what you love, and then find a way to offer it to others in the form of service, working hard, and also allowing the energy of the universe to lead you." Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg found her true love, her true calling, and we are all better for it. Audre Lorde said, "When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid." This couldn't be reflected more in Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's fierce support of gender equality and human rights. Dr. Maya Angelou said, "If you're always trying to be normal, you'll never know how amazing you are." Each time Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg spoke or shared a part of her, you knew she dared to be bold and show up in a beautiful and strong way. And finally, Bell Hooks said, "The heart of justice is truth-telling, seeing ourselves and the world the way it is rather than the way we want it to be. More than ever before, we as a society need to renew a commitment to truth-telling." Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg believed in what's real and what's right in front of us. Her life's work and her legacy has inspired me to fight for justice and equity during someone's life and even after their death, for the sake of their legacies. And I would like to pause at this moment to offer Breonna Taylor's life as a memory of our blessings, and mostly for the sake of our collective humanity.
My name is Jodi Schwartz. I'm the Vice Chair of JFNA, and I'd like to thank everyone who spoke so beautifully today. We have heard over and over again what an icon and what a trailblazer Justice Ginsburg was. With an exceptional mind as a litigator and a heroic spirit as a woman, she had the unique ability to engender the hearts of all ages and all communities, teens and adults, pop stars and presidents. She will surely be missed. Justice Ginsburg broke barriers that have permanently changed the course of our country's future. I was privileged to be in her company on a few occasions, and while obviously she was brilliant, barrier breaking, and a role model, what struck me the most was that to her, each case before her was about the human story within it. She knew their characters, she knew their names, she knew their troubles, she knew their goals. That was her superpower, not her brilliant legal mind. It was her deep heart. She enabled people to marry whomever they loved. She helped ensure girls get the education they qualify for, and she championed that women get fair pay that they deserve. And for us in the Jewish community, she was a shining example of talent and achievement, a source of inspiration. An outstanding daughter of the Jewish people, she made an enduring contribution. She joined our Jewish community at the annual GA several times, each one a high point. And on one occasion, she even read a PJ library book about her own life. On another, she was asked about the trend of Supreme Court justices and their tendency to protect the underdog. In her pithy way, Justice Ginsburg said, there were no Jewish justices. We have evolved to the point where only there are justices who are Jewish. And she also revealed to us that she studied Jewish law, a good grounding for her legal study. She was unfailingly insightful and thorough. She brought practical wisdom to her decisions, and she brought a sense of humor to her work and personal interactions. As a practicing lawyer, as a Jew, and as a woman, I am grateful to her and inspired by her daily. She is indeed a light unto us who will not be forgotten. She helped us see that discrimination on the basis of sex isn't about an abstract ideal, and she made us understood that it doesn't only harm women. Discrimination has real consequences for all of us. It's about who we are and who we all can be. May her memory be for a blessing. Rabbi Ellen Wolintz-Fields will now gently Kel Male Rachamim.
El Male Rachamim Shochen Bamromim, Hametzem Menucha Nechona Tacha Kanfei Hashchina, B'ma'alot Kedoshim Et Ahorim, Kezoa Harakia Mashirim Et Nishmat, Yeta Rochel Bat Nisan Ve'Tzirolea, Shahalcha Olama, Began Eden Tehei Menuchata, Ana Bal Harachim, Hastira Habetzeter Knafecha Olamim, Utzror B'Tzrachaim Et Nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata v'tanoch b'shalom al mishkeva v'nomar. Amen. Okay. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of the Honorable Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that Justice Ginsburg find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bonds of life. May the Honorable Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. May the memory of the righteous one, the Honorable Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, be an eternal blessing. Zecher Tzadik Libracha. On behalf of all of our organizations, Jewish Women's International, Hadassah, National Council of Jewish Women, Jewish Federation of North America, Jewish Council for Public Affairs, Operation Understanding DC, and my organization with our president, Debbie Kaner-Goldich, Women's League for Conservative Judaism, we all wish you a peaceful and enjoyable Shabbat, a meaningful fast. May we all be signed and sealed into the book of life for a healthy, happy, safe new year. Shabbat Shalom and Gemar Chatima Tova.